a lot of people landed on the ground last Wednesday night. The bodies were hitting the ground. Should we move to that now while it's still safe?
Another banner episode of AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday.
I'm not even going to go through a lot of the actually what happened or the story behind any match because there was none, or what the is. This is, it's gone past a rib and into a public health crisis at this point. If nobody will rein these motherfuckers in, some authority has to step in.
Hi.
I don't know what it's the booking malfeasance, the unprofessionalism, the chaos and anarchy. There's nothing about this program that, taken as a television show from start to finish, makes any fucking sense at all. There are individual performances, and that's all they all are. Everybody is going out there and doing an individual performance of whatever the fuck it is they want to do. Whether they can do it or not, they think they can. And they're in it for themselves. There's no direction. There's no instructions. There's nobody in charge. There's nobody over this whole program from start to finish saying that, okay, this will make sense from 8 o'clock Eastern to 10 o'clock Eastern. Or this angle that we're doing in segment 6 will stand out because it's completely different from anything else on the program. Or we're doing something very important in Seg 9 with our top guy, so we're not going to let the job guy in Seg 2 do the exact same thing and get up from it, or whatever the case. There's none of that. They have completely just, Tony's apparently either cracked up or just thrown his hands up and said, y'all figure it out. Am I lying?
A couple people sent me some photos from one of the matches on the show, and it was from behind, so you couldn't see the face of the wrestler, just the back of their head. And they said, look at the plumber now. And it wasn't even the plumber. It was just some other generic guy bleeding all over himself.
Oh, I know who that must have been. Well, again, the first match on the program, this is June 7th for anybody keeping track. A date which will live in infamy. The first match, surprise, surprise, wouldn't you know who won the pony? Pockets is in the first match. And this week, they're sacrificing Swerve Strickland. Who, he's got something there somewhere. It's probably done now. But Brian, help me out. Swerve was affiliated with other people, including Rick Ross, who called Keith Lee a big motherfucker, and they were moguls, and they had associates. That was a group,
associates,
right?
And I think the associates were the heavily tattooed man and the other tattooed man.
Okay, well, now Swerve came out, and he's being managed by Prince Nana of the Embassy, my old friend from Ring of Honor.
Well, he's got a lot of money. I mean, you can make a lot of deals when you're Prince Nana.
But have we been told this? Did I just not remember that? Because we haven't seen Swerve in a while wrestling on this program. He's somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, because I think a lot of the stuff with him may have played out on other shows that they have. I mean, we never really saw a conclusive ending to him and Keith Lee, did we?
Well, no. Has Keith Lee come to a conclusive ending? Because we don't see him at all. No, he was in that battle royal. But nevertheless, Nana is now Swerve's manager. He's the world's first mute manager. He's been managing he walks out to the ring with various people, but you never hear him speak. Nobody says, oh, here's Prince Nana. Here's his backstory. Here's why he's here. Here's what he hopes to accomplish. And there was 20 minutes of this Tony's clown, Tony's tickle. Here he comes. It's Tony's clown. You didn't know I could sound just like the Everly Brothers, did you?
That sounds nothing like the Everly Brothers. How dare you disgrace the memory of Phil and Don Everly with your bad singing.
It was close to Don, even if it wasn't good enough for Phil.
Wasn't no Kathy's clown. Get out of here.
Okay, so the mascot looks like somebody trained a chimpanzee to hit the ropes. And Swerve could have been something, but because he's not rotten, but it's all over now, as Mick and Keith would say. And this was 20 minutes until the match was over. And then here comes Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, Tia Leone, and the rest of Nana's guys, and they come in and get some shitty-looking heat, in quotation marks for a second, until the blackout. And it's a long blackout. Apparently, Sting's not as quick as he used to be. And then the lights come back on, and the heels are out of the ring, and Darby and Sting are standing in the ring with baseball bats. And they've saved the mascot. And I know that Sting has no philosophical love of wrestling or, wanting to hold up for its credibility or anything like that. But even he's got to be embarrassed at this point that he's been reduced to coming out and saving this little fucking dick lick.
No, he likes the money.
Well, I know he likes the money and he has no philosophical love of the business, but one would think just, goddamn, I used to be involved with Ric Flair and fucking Hulk Hogan, and now it's pockets.
Business. It's all business to him. Hey, I don't want to go there and put on my face paint. I'll give you $10,000. All right, where do you want me to sit? That's what it is.
All right, well, anyway, that was the first 25 minutes, really, of the program. And then they announced that Bryan Danielson is going to wrestle on the Forbidden Door pay-per-view Okada.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Well, and the same people who look forward to this show every year will love it too. And everybody else said, who? What? Hey, is this guy on our television?
Don't disagree with you. And certainly I'm not, when I say I want to see that match, I'm probably not thinking like the average person because I know who Okada is. Did you see the promo that Danielson did for the match?
I kind of zoned out.
It was better than every single promo he's done, at least since he first didn't turn heel way back. But it's better, and you believed him more than anything he has done with the Blackpool Combat Club. It was the best thing he's done promo-wise. And it was for the Okada match, which, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it'll be a fine match. And, the people who buy the Forbidden Door pay-per-view every year to see Japanese wrestlers that they know against the AEW guys will like it, but everybody else watching this program is going, who, what? They see footage a week or two in advance of this guy, and you can't hear him talk because I'm pretty sure he doesn't speak English, or at least not well. So it's just see the match. It's not see the issue, see the personalities, and that's going to go only so far. And speaking of issues with personalities, they did a TNT Collision commercial, the network, not AEW. It was in commercial time. And they were plugging the return of CM Punk. He's coming back June 17th. And the fans CM Punk chants in the commercial. They are putting a lot of stock in this. I wonder how Warner Brothers Discovery feels about Tony's EVPs sabotaging the company's biggest ratings draw for their own selfish purposes to the point where they've damaged all of their reputations with their childish whining and bullshit.
I think he's worried about those issues with CNN, and then he'll worry about Tony Khan.
So then we had a 6-man tag with the BBC against Muffin Top Taylor, Cupcake, and Rocky Romero. The best friends. And Rocky Romero only has to be a best friend on American TV for the 2 weeks before the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And obviously, since this was Muffin Top and Cupcake, but at the same point, do you remember, it's on Twitter every so often when they retweet the footage of the Sammy Hagar impersonator that was introduced at Madison Square Garden in 85?
Of course.
Taylor looks like a mark that slipped into a battle royal just by walking in the procession, and nobody really noticed till he got in the ring. So as soon as the BBC get to ringside, one guy whacked the plumber with a chair, the other guy dove off the top, and they started a 6-way on the floor. And that was enough for me. If they're not going to try to have a fucking match, I'm not going to try to listen or watch. And by the time this thing was over, it was 40 minutes into the show. And from speed search on screen, all the normal things that you would expect to happen happened, including the fake elbows at the finish while Moxley was indulging his autoerotic asphyxiation fantasies on one of his opponents. with the bulldog choke. Your thoughts?
It's exactly what you think it would be. I mean, the best friends suck. And Chuck Taylor looks worse now than he ever has before. And you know what it's going to be with Moxley. And Claudio means nothing. He's just Moxley's backup. They're trying so hard to get Yuta over. The weird thing to me that stood out was Excalibur, on at least 2 occasions, called Danielson the greatest wrestler of all time. That's a weird thing to all of a sudden introduce into the mix. The announcer, who's not a heel announcer, is calling this guy who's now a heel the greatest wrestler of all time.
Of all time, baby.
That seems a bit ridiculous.
It does seem a little bit excessive, but, you know, sockface do get carried away.
Moxley's so bad, though, I'll tell you. I think I'm starting to see why some people like him. The more you watch him, he's so bad at everything, it becomes almost funny. At one point in the match, they cut the camera so you couldn't exactly see it, but he just stood in the ring because the other guy wasn't there. You know, he didn't know what to do. His blows look like shit. How many times do you just see him fall and like roll? I was thinking about that when I saw it happen here, and then I saw it happen on the floor. He falls and then he just rolls away.
He's having flashbacks that he's on fire and he's stopping and dropping and then rolling.
He just rolls away. I don't know what that is. But Yuta's ridiculous, and I'm sorry. I mean, he just looks, for all the reasons I have problems with Adam Cole, for the push they're giving Yuta and the way they're trying to make him into a badass, it doesn't work for me right now at all.
I agree. I concur. But then did you see the transmission problem that they had right after that match where they lost their feed from the wrestling arena and they got the wires crossed with that security camera footage? Did you see that?
I'm not sure.
Suddenly, a security camera at some reform school broke into the feed, and there were 3 of the juvenile delinquents standing there trying to cut a promo like they were real wrestlers. Oh, wait a minute. Checking my notes, it was Hangnail Page and the Buckaroos. I'm sorry. Apparently, that was not juvenile delinquents from the local reform home. They did some inside lines to pop themselves only. Did you hear when Page said something to the effect of the match? Well, I didn't see it, but it sounded great. Did you hear that line? That's what they get their panties in a wad about, because when they were on independent shows and they would ask one of the veterans that was guesting for the night in the main event, what did you think of my match? It's, I didn't see it, but it sounded great. And so they're very butthurt about all the veterans that blew them off because for obvious reasons, like I'm doing now. When did Nikki join the hair club for men?
I don't know.
It's
been going for a while.
No, but didn't it used to be blonde?
Well, when he grew his beard, he kind of dyed it all so that it would, match.
But it's like a Vince McMahon dye job now. It's ridiculous. It's so dark and everywhere. They both look like they're being made up to a remake of I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
Speaking of things that Excalibur said on commentary that were ridiculous, what are your thoughts on AEW calling them the Hung Bucks?
I did not hear that.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what they're calling them. Hangman Page and the Young Bucks, the Hung Bucks.
Well,
seems pretty stupid to me.
I'd like to see them hung up by their thumbs. Does that count? They were the original inspiration for Vienna Sausage, Maddie and Nikki. And next week, we're going to see the BBC against the Buckaroos. So that's just going to be fantastic. And also another dream match after you eat copious amounts of Taco Bell and go to sleep filled with alcohol. You will dream this. Yeah. Twinkle Toes is going to wrestle Will Ostrich at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's another big one that they're doing at the pay-per-view.
And that's another guy that we see again on television, every 6 months? Ostrich shows up once and... All right.
They had a big match at the Tokyo Dome, and I enjoyed it. And I know it's not exactly your cup of tea, but it was a big match. And they're doing the rematch at this pay-per-view with no build-up beyond this announcement here.
Are there going to be any matches with anybody that we like that are actually on the TV program on a regular basis?
Well, based on what MJF said in that promo, it was the media scrum. He's not going to be on the New Japan show unless that was just talk.
Oh, Christ.
I don't know if CM Punk's going to be on that show, especially if...
well, he better not be and spoil
Friends
the
of the
fucking...
Bucks. Yeah.
Well, spoil the debut of the...
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. One would think that, here's the thing. One would think that his first appearance, and the first advertised appearance obviously is June 17th on Collision, but are they going to turn around and in 10 days just shoehorn the biggest star in the company into a fucking match on the pay-per-view that quickly?
No, exactly. They're not going to do that. But I will say, Okada versus Danielson and a rematch between Ospreay and Omega for that audience, that's a big deal. Those two matches are bigger than any match they had on the show last year.
So we got to watch this, right? Is what you're saying?
I will watch this, so you can if you would like.
All right, well, I may still be getting through the MJF and Adam Cole promo by that point in time. It's only 2 weeks away. I'm going to say this. Long MJF is better than anybody else on the show, long or short. But this was testing things for me. And I'll tell you why. Because from the time that MJF's music played and he came out and started talking and cutting a promo on the people of Colorado to the time that this thing got wrapped up verbally was almost 20 minutes, 18 minutes. And there was no life to this. They can talk their ass off. But besides the fact that it went on so long, they did more damage to each other, in my opinion, than they did to build the match. I might have wanted to see the match before they started talking, after they finished with each other. I'm not sure I want to see either one of them against anybody else. I've never seen such real life. I know we always say wrestling should be real and real emotion, but when you tell all the fans what is legitimately wrong with both of your two of your top stars and why they shouldn't like them, and you're telling the truth, is that productive or counterproductive? And Adam Cole came out 2 minutes into the thing. But just as soon as MJF had said he's got no competition, nobody's on the level of the devil, then Adam's music plays. It takes him 2 minutes to get to the ring. But then MJF proceeded to vent at him for 7 solid fucking minutes while Adam Cole just leaned in the corner and kind of smirked and or nodded like, oh, that was a good one, or just listened to him. And they were in opposite corners of the ring. And remember, I've said in the past, you shouldn't be right up on a fucking guy and say some shit that he ought to punch you for and him have to listen to you for 5 minutes. But I'm not sure, Brian, if Adam Cole could have easily walked across the ring and punched him about 3.5 minutes into that 7-minute saga. And I'm not sure why that MJF couldn't have said all those things about Adam Cole and then had Adam Cole do all I can stands, can't stands no more and come out. But he put him over at the beginning, MJF did. Yeah, he looked up to him in Ring of Honor when he was a kid. My God, I feel old. I'm wearing socks right now that I had in Ring of Honor. But he put over his hair. He was jacked. He had a tan. He was great in the ring, great on the mic. He was great everywhere. He was the greatest world champion in the history of that company in Florida, and that's undisputed. And then MJF said, I couldn't wait to wrestle you, and I figured we'd have an unparalleled rivalry. And then he said, and then this guy showed up. What happened to you? The Panama Playboy to the Panama Game Boy. He mocked him for not having a tan. Britt Baker's got his balls. His body is shit. He said, you're so frail, you make crack whores jealous. And then he said, some people are blaming AEW for not presenting Adam Cole right, but he's had every push possible. So he just apparently is a failure. And then MJF listed his accomplishments and went on, and then said that he heard that Adam Cole only came to AEW because Vince McMahon didn't think he was a top guy, and MJF thinks Vince was right. And I mean, my God, I felt like fucking throwing Adam Cole a box of Kleenex or something. I was afraid he was going to fucking break down and cry by the time this verbal assault was finished. And I'm thinking, boy, he's going to have a comeback. And he got the mic, and his first word was, really? Really? I said, what the fuck? So he turns around and mentions MJF's fiance dumping him. He's a douchebag. Adam Cole had no comeback whatsoever for the knocks on his physique, which is why that it shouldn't have been brought up. But he said, you're talking about my body of work. No, he's not, and nobody thought that. And he tried to deflect it, and then he dares MJF to piss in a cup.
That was incredible. I can't believe that.
He told so now the entire national television audience has been told by the world champion that his apparently next challenger looks like a goddamn, chain gang solitary confinement convict that's been let out of the fucking hole, and he's 120 pounds skin and bones. And the champion has been accused by the challenger of being on the sauce.
I'm not out of shape. You're on steroids.
Yeah. And then he says, I swear on my life, nobody in the locker room respects you. That sounds like one of those fucking AEW Cucamonga Click ribbon on the square type of things. And then he says he's selfish, conceited, and lazy. And the fans, nobody respects you. And the fans chant, no respect, no respect. And MJF says, well, that's tough talk coming from Keith Lee's manager. And
so then, again, can I just say something? No, I'm laughing because it's funny. It's funny because it's inside nonsense that doesn't belong in this segment. So they just,
they've just torn each other down rather than building their confrontation up. And then they're not even going to have one until finally Adam Cole calls MJF a coward and says, you won't fight me because I'm better than you, and they know it. And then MJF loses his mind suddenly and says, I'll fight you anytime, any place, anywhere. And of course, Adam Cole accepts and leaves after outsmarting him. And did I mention in 18 minutes?
MJF is great. The problem is, who's he going to work with? And it seemed to me watching this, I mean, I know the payoff was him making fun of Adam Cole excessively while Adam Cole stood there and took it, like you said, and then had no good comedic comeback or any kind of comeback at all. But MJF built him up. And everything he was saying, you're like, yeah, he was that guy once. And then you're looking at who he is now. And,
nice reminder that the old gray mare ain't what it used to be.
I think MJF, the same way he tried to build up his opponents in the four-way match, he tried to do it here with Adam Cole. The problem is Adam Cole's coming off that Jericho feud, which was terrible. Had the worst match ever on a pay-per-view. And now he's all of a sudden here. The people like to pop for his music and his catchphrase and his pointing and everything else. Crouching. I don't know what he looks like. He's going to take a dump. MJF should have kicked him when he did that right in front of MJF. Why didn't MJF just fucking kick him? Just kick him in the nuts or in the face. They're both right there.
He exposed his balls.
So, I mean, the problem is Adam Cole. The other thing is this. People like Adam Cole. People previously ended up liking him because he was really good as a heel. His best role is as a heel. And more than likely, because of his physique, make him a chicken shit heel. It works then. Then he could play to all of his strengths. He could do all the super kicks and thigh slapping he wants.
Well, but the problem is that he went and got himself hurt and was out for so long. He got immense amounts of sympathy from the fans, and they were glad to see him make his return. And so now they don't want to boo him because they just got him back. They missed him because he went away, but look at the state of him.
They're running out of MJF opponents. It hit me during this. You know, we've talked about Orange Cassidy.
They've got to do another match with Darby. What the fuck? Why is that not being continued?
Darby, you would think?
He fucked Darby. He fucked Darby. Darby should want a rematch. Darby should be campaigning instead of fucking around saving the goddamn company mascot. He should be demanding the opportunity to work his way back into contention with single match after single match till he gets what he wants.
Did we ever get resolution on what happened with him and Sting? Remember Sting showed up to confront him? And then we never saw Sting and MJF together again.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, Sting showed up to tell him off. Everyone just shows up. You know, you can't blame him. This is why heels get sympathy sometimes. This guy's fighting back. All these people just show up to tell him off. He beats him to the punch. But they're running out of opponents for him because we've seen Moxley. Don't need to see that again. Punk is the one that's intriguing because that story still lives. Like, there was never a conclusive ending to that. But I don't know if that's the thing to go to right now, but who else? They haven't built anyone up. Who have they built up for the world champion?
Well, besides the fact that the Punk and MJF thing was not resolved, Punk left as the reigning champion and was injured.
That's right.
So, but the thing is, there has to be time taken because Punk can't lose, but they don't want to probably take it off MJF right now. Anyway.
Maybe they can create a second world championship. The Collision Universal Championship.
You know what? Because MJF only wrestles every so often. They've been making a big deal out of it.
That's right.
So now they'll have the working man's title. If they can find anybody to work. There weren't any of those people in the next match.
Do you want to see Cole versus MJF after that?
No. No, I don't.
Like, and you said it went too long. Like, there's a way to have this. So MJF gets some hits out. Cole comes out and confronts him. Instead, it turned into the whole thing, and I'll talk about it a little later with Callis. Maybe Cole should have come out without his music and confronted him. It would have been quicker, but maybe it also would have been better.
Well, but then it left more time for the next match. A tornado tag team match. All four in the ring. Of course, that's actually false advertising. They didn't use the ring most of the time, but all four in action at the same time with Hook and Jungle Boy against Preston Vance and the Lucha guy with Jose. And a lot of people speculated, was Jungle Boy's match with Rush his punishment for being a dick at the Fan Fest or whatever? And as that wouldn't make any sense. Rush went into business for himself because he's an obnoxious piece of shit and just chopped the guy up and beat him up and knew he wasn't going to do anything about it, doesn't know his place on the card. This is Jungle Boy's punishment. We talked about that Darby Allin went from challenging for the world title to what the fuck is he doing? Jungle Boy has gone from challenging for the world title to being partners with Hook against two guys that we've barely ever seen and aren't worth seeing again. This has got to be his punishment. Has anybody ever fallen so far so quickly? And this match was, what can describe this match?
Well, first of all, let's just say the concept is a wonderful blow-off to a feud. There is no feud. What is this? This is the first time we've seen this match and these guys in the ring, and it went right to this.
They jumped. Hook and Jungle Boy helped him last week, and we went to a Texas Tornado tag match.
Every match on
with
this
blood.
Show, you know what? Almost every match on this show is either a stipulation match or a match with just no rules, where the referee's there, but they just like kind of bounce around with their hands in the air, or mug for the camera, one or the other.
Lazy booking. So in this one again, this one little angle with these underneath guys and Jungle Boy who's been featured. But then the heels jump the baby faces from behind on their entrance. Hold on, if we're keeping track, the BBC match was a jump in the entrance. Okay, that's the one. That's the one we had. There's another one later, but this was a jump in the entrance. Preston Vance either he looks either confused or scared or lost all the time. The look on, there's not many expressions on his face, but the one that he has conveys all of that. And I guess he's been around for a while. I know from OVW, from doing seminars, from being involved in training, there are cases where some great athletes in other sports or other pursuits just, they don't get it. And I'm wondering, why are they, I don't know whether to term it encouraging him or deluding him by putting him on television. He's lost, he's confused, he's herky-jerky. He looks like he can't figure out what's going on around him. At one point, he just took a bump and rolled out on the floor and leaned on the railing in full camera view on the opposite side of the ring and stared at both of the baby faces, lackadaisically beating up his partner, the Lucha guy. And then when Hook was chasing Jose, he came alive and clotheslined him because he was waiting for his spot 1 minute too early.
He's stealing my stuff.
And then the Lucha guy somewhere produced a 30-foot-long fluorescent green extension cord and tried to whip Jungle Boy with it. But it was so long, it went over Jungle Boy and it got hooked on the top turnbuckle and he couldn't get it unhooked. And he keeps jerking and pulling, and Jungle Boy's just wandering around while this guy, and then when he gets the fucking thing loose, he tries to put it around Jungle Boy's neck. It's 30 feet fucking long. He gets it around his leg. He can't grab the fucking thing.
It's everything at AEW. Either the chains are too short or too long. Nothing's ever the right length.
And then Hook and Vance go out in the crowd. They're fighting in the crowd for a break spot. And I watched the picture-in-picture because I couldn't turn away. In picture-in-picture, just not even on television. They're setting up tables at ringside. Jose's helping, and Vance has a trash can on his head. And Hook and Vance fake fight walked through the entire arena to come back to the ring or ringside. So they come back on the air, and then Hook gets a logging chain that's got to be 12 feet long and wraps it around his hand and jumps off the barricade and hits Preston Vance. Now, you can go back and look. He clearly blocked the blow. The chain came nowhere near his head. On slow-mo, it's clear as day. But Vance, the camera's off of him for a minute. He juices a gusher. So it wasn't a hard way. They clearly blocked the chain, so he had to be the one to get his own juice, and he got it almost around on his temple. I've never seen a guy bleeding from the side of his head like that. He could have cut an artery and just bled out. There's an artery over there somewhere. That's why all the gig marks are in the middle of the forehead, because it's just flesh and bone. And this had to be the first time maybe he's ever gotten color. Either that or I know it had to be the first time on television. So now they're wallowing around on the floor. The jobber is bleeding buckets and it means nothing. And then Hook suplexes this poor fucker who's already losing blood off the apron through the two tables, but missed one of them and went through the far one in such a manner that the back of Hook's head came down in goddamn Preston Vance's nuts. So now he had a do-it-yourself fucking vasectomy courtesy of Hook's head. Then Jose gets in the ring to fight Jungle Boy and rips his jacket and his shirt off, and Jose, the assistant, is bigger than Jungle Boy. He was kind of jacked up.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
Yeah.
I want to see him wrestle.
And then finally, Jungle Boy got a snare trap on Lucha Guy and won this match. And I can't decide whether it looked faker when Preston Vance was on offense or defense. I can't decide whether Jose should be the wrestler and the other guy should be the manager. And every time Sockface, apparently now the heel group here, Jose and Preston Vance and Lucha Guy, what's his name? Psychedelico?
No, this is a different one, and it's either and I apologize for not being sure, but I have no idea who this guy is. It's either Dralistico or...
That's it.
Is that it? Okay.
That's it. Well, every time that Sockface says the heel group's name, it sounds like he's throwing up on the air. It's some Spanish phrase, but La Fracción Black. What is it? I can't understand him.
I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Los Facción Ignoberales.
Well, that's going to play in fucking Birmingham. Or maybe even Gadsden, Alabama. So that was that match. Again, a match with the only person anybody cares about at all is Jungle Boy in this match. Preston Vance, bless him, don't know him, never met him, but he is far from a fucking natural, and all of his shit looks rotten, and he looks lost. The other guy nobody knows. And then there's poor Hook, who we've talked about how they dropped the ball and then just stick him in shit for whatever reason. And blood and fighting in the arena and furniture and weapons. Same thing as the second match. Same thing as the match they're going to have later on. Over and over and over. Any comments you'd like to make?
I mean, why? Why this match? Why these guys here? Again, they never had a match. Hook and Jungle Boy have done a few things together to unite them in hair. I don't really know what their connection is. And then they're fighting like, of all the low down, nothing happening factions in AEW, Jose the assistant, the guy we think is Drolistico, we're not sure of his name, and Preston Vance, Captain Charisma himself. This is the worst faction there is. I guess Roosh technically is a part of this. I can only imagine how much damage he would do to his opponents in a match like this. After the last time I saw him in there with Jungle Boy. And is Andrade still technically... Is Jose still his assistant, I guess is the...
I forgot Jose first assisted Andrade.
Well, first it was it Vicky? Then it was Chavo. Then it was Jose.
We missed somebody in there. I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out. All right. The moment that we were waiting for, Tony's announcement. Brian, take it away.
Hi. Now, let me just say, Tony Khan seems like a very nice guy. I feel bad if we scared him off using thanks guys.
We ran him off of thanks guys.
But hi is just as funny, and we're going to run with that, and no one's as high as Tony Khan.
There you go. Pretty soon he's going to be opening up. All right, you son of a bitches.
Who's holding the cue card? You said teleprompter. I want to think it's like QT holding up cue cards.
No. Because
QT's cue cards. There's his new gimmick.
No, they're not doing it. They need to shave his head and call him Cue Ball QT. But they're not doing cue cards because they are scrolling that teleprompter at the exact pace that they would like Tony to speak in. And that's why I'm thinking
I'm a real little boy. I really have feelings. He's like Pinocchio.
Well, that's why I'm thinking they either the guy turning the teleprompter reel was either on Soma's or they've turned up Tony's propofol valve too far, because now he's gone from bouncing all over the walls like he was when he first started getting on television to almost trailing off and passing out on the announcements. It's almost that Star Trek episode where the leader of the planet was really drugged and he was just a puppet for the real heels behind the whole thing. And they would put him in the chair and put him on television, and the microphone would cover that his mouth wasn't moving. And he'd make the announcements over the loudspeaker. That's the next step for Tony Khan.
Hi, this popped the number once, so I am going to do it again. Back to you.
So they announced the main event on June 17th for the debut Collision will be a 6-man tag team match with Gin and Juice joining up with Samoa Joe against FTR and CM Punk. And that's the way he says it. And he just says the name and then they get out of it like they did last week. And that's going to be a great 6-man tag team match. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything that's been going on, but most of their programming doesn't either. The problem becomes that, again, besides the fact that they have done to Chicago what they've done to Ontario in terms of loading up. So they're at the United Center on the 17th. They're at the other building on the other day, whatever the fuck. And then they've damaged everybody's reputation. And then we haven't seen Samoa Joe in months. Punk's, obviously, we know where he's been. So it's going to be a great match that will actually be even better than the dream matches at Forbidden Door, Okada and Danielson, or Twinkle Toes and Ostrich. This will be a great tag team match that will actually mean something for AEW's business moving forward with its regular talent. But, that remains to be seen whose side the fans are going to be on and why.
Let's get past Tony's bizarre, it's like, I'm a real boy. I'm telling you, it's just like there's something like they're trying to program him to act normal. I was a little disappointed. I guess you can't do what you did the first time, but I would almost rather have him talk for 30 minutes because he has to say something.
Yeah.
Than have another 6-man match. And again, I want to see stuff with him and FTR. I like their opponents. And we've heard that Punk wants to do something with Joe. So here's a natural way to set something up.
They've buried the lead, though.
Right.
There's no reason that 6-man tag match could not have main evented week 2 or week 3. Week 1, first time out of the gate, we have not seen CM Punk since September. They should be announcing, ladies and gentlemen, on the first episode of Collision, CM Punk will return to AEW, and he will have an exclusive live interview where he will explain where he's been and where he's going. And that's all you need to say. Booking him to wrestle is not going to sell any more tickets or get any more ratings than that, because that's the start of the fucking story you're going to tell. That's page 1. We haven't seen him. Where's he? They've never told us where he's been on television. They never told us that he was even injured on television. They never told us what the outcome of that was. They ain't told us dick. So starting with that, CM Punk, the man who won the world championship on our pay-per-view in September and had to immediately relinquish it because of surgery for a torn fucking whatever, after 9 months is back and is going to speak. Where's he been? What's he been doing? Where's he going to be? And what's he going to be doing? You'll find out. That's page 1. That's the start of the fucking book.
And it's 30 minutes of a 2-hour show
that people will watch and tune in for. They tuned in the fucking announcement that he was coming back from Tony was the highest viewed point or almost of the program last week or week 4, whatever it was. You think 30 minutes of CM Punk in the ring telling this story and potentially people coming out and getting involved as he tells it.
And he lets you know he's not leaving. He'll be there at the end of the show for whatever's going to happen.
Yeah. All right.
That's the only thing. Again, it'll be a great match. And, again, they burned us out. Both companies have burned me out, at least, on 6-man tag matches.
But that's ridiculous, yes.
But I'm intrigued by this, and I've been saying it. I like Juice. I like Jay. It sounds ridiculous saying it like that. I like Juice Robinson. Jay White's been all right, but Juice Robinson's the one that really stands out to me. And Samoa Joe and Punk is intriguing.
Well, what was up next was very brief. Don Fallis, as we know, now has the Japanese superstar Takeshita under his wing.
Takeshita.
I said that.
He's earned it. Come on.
I like he's always going to be my little boy Take to me. And Take had a match with Casper Milquetoast. I don't know what his name was. I don't think they ever said it. Didn't matter anyway. And now, 3 years into the show, 4 years, whatever, they're doing job matches. They couldn't get anybody over at the start of the thing. Couldn't just let anybody have a win, but now they do. And here's the thing, Take has great heel expressions and facials. He's got the great heel attitude and demeanor. He's got the size. He was more exciting, quote unquote, as a babyface because the style that he worked. But I think I've got an inkling that he might be a big deal as a heel in this company. And as soon as he gets comfortable with the heeling style, which I'm sure he's never done before, especially an American heel style, if somebody can help bring him along, then I think he's going to be a top guy in the company.
There was one point during the match where I was like noticing his facial expressions, and I'm like, man, these are so good. And at that moment, it hit me, he slowed this down. Like purposely, he slowed this down. And that's where I noticed the facial expressions, and he's great. I think he's really good.
Before he would run, dive, run, jump, run, dive. Now he slowed it down. That's why I said he was more exciting as a babyface, doing everything everybody else does. But this guy has personality. He slowed it down. You could see his face. You could see he looks like the heel in a kung fu movie. That fucking snarl. But anyway, he beat the guy in a minute and a half. And then Don Fallis does the in-ring promo. And I think I'm figured out what they're doing here. Because you asked last week or on one of the programs, said, are they sweetening that? I don't know. I'm not saying 100% no, there's no sweetening. But I think what they're doing, and this, Michael Mansouri came from the WWE. He knows a little bit about what's going on, right? Their new video guy. What they're doing is a combination of things. It's really there, but they're accentuating it. They're turning the crowd way up. Remember I said the other week you could hear their heartbeats. They're turning the crowd way up. And when guys are doing a promo in the ring, speaking on the PA microphone, that audio is going to two different places. It goes to what they could program audio, which means it goes out like the announcer microphones and everything goes to program, to the TV show that the viewer at home is seeing. But they also feed the PA microphone audio. Unlike the announcers, they feed the PA mic to the house as well so the people can hear it. Are you following me, Brian?
Yeah, and they've always had audio issues. I mean, even during the MJF Adam Cole thing, it was hard to hear them at times.
Well, yes, but audio issues aside, that's in a perfect world. They're feeding that in-ring microphone audio to the program and to the PA, and that's why that you can hear the echo of the PA microphone on the program audio because it's being picked up in the building. Sometimes you'll hear when they do have an audio problem and the program audio is being fed, but not the PA. You will hear the guy talk on the microphone, but the people, you obviously hear the people can't hear it, and he'll start hitting it like, why ain't this on? That's because he can't tell it's going to the program. He can only tell the PA that's what he's hearing. Or there's times that you will see a guy start talking on the PA mic, but you can't hear. You just hear the muffled woo in the arena. That's where they didn't bring it to program, and you're hearing the PA mic. So what they're doing here, I believe, is they're turning the crowd microphones way up. They're turning the program audio on the PA microphone way down. And that way they're picking up the PA feed on the crowd microphones and the PA microphone that the talent is holding. So they're accentuating the drown out effect. When the people are screaming, you can't hear Don Callis. It doesn't matter how loud the people in an arena scream. If your full level of audio is going to program from that microphone, it would be like the announcers talking. You could hear them even over the crowd. But if you drop that and pick up the hollowness and the reverberation of the PA microphone in the building, then you hear what they're saying, but it's not as loud and overwhelming over the crowd because now it's mixed more into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, good, because that was more interesting than the promo.
Two things. One thing I want to say as a positive. Takeshita, with Callis far behind him, looks like he may need to catch his breath to catch up, came out no music. And you get a reaction. And I thought about it because on Monday, not that anyone cares about this match or anything, Becky Lynch versus, I think, Cruella. Trish and Zoe Stark come out. They hit her music. So the people may have reacted to the music. I don't know. The music's so loud you can't tell. But then the music cuts off. They're done reacting.
Yeah.
If someone just comes out with no music, you get crowd noise picking up and it's noticeable. You get people standing up and it creates a wave. Hey, this guy's standing up. What does he see? I can't see. What does he see? You don't get any of that. It's just the music.
Well, you know why? Because I was around for the reverse 45 years ago when they started playing music for some main event guys. The people stood up and popped when they heard music. Just, wow, they're playing music for this guy. He must be important because it was different. And now they react louder when there's no music because it's different.
Something to think about, though, in terms of going backwards, where things may work for certain people. But the other thing I wanted to say, I really, really like Takeshita as a heel. Don Callis. He said a lot of things in this promo about, cutting out of cancer and this and that. Tell me exactly why he's mad at Kenny Omega.
I don't know.
Right?
I know that Kenny has been like a cancer in his body after all that he did for Kenny.
And he was also like family.
And so now Don said, me and my family, he wants to be the Bobby Heenan. He wants to start the Heenan family. Me and my family are going to cut the elite out of this company. Now, if they will do that, that's an even bigger service than the American Cancer Society provides. But I don't know if he's going to do it. But no, it's not yet been explained or understood why that Don was so suddenly so willing to stab his best friend or a member of his family, not in the back, but literally in the face.
Did we ever find out the significance of the screwdriver to this whole thing?
No, I think it just because they couldn't figure out how to make it work if it was a Bloody Mary.
Huh, good point.
So anyway, the next segment, real quick, it was a backstage pre-tape, but Officer Barbrady, outside Christian Cage's locker room, Christian comes out, blamed Arn Anderson for costing him the TNT title, so he's going to cost Arn something. And then Dino Douche walks out of the door, and they walk past Barbrady, and the door is open, and there is Arn's son, Brock, laying there. Barbrady reacts in the phoniest way ever. Going in there, Brock even had fake blood on his head. The whole thing was phony as a football bat, but will nobody tell Alex Marvez? Will no one just tell him even? That's unacceptable. Do it over. Act like a living human being. Maybe you're just not cut out for this. It's funny. We're doing serious angles and your reactions are so fake and so phony and so emotionless that it's humorous. And that's not the emotion we're going for. Can anybody just tell him? Am I exaggerating?
Marvez is terrible on air.
Is it completely unprofessional? Is it cable access level? I'm asking you a direct question. Disagree with me if you can.
No, I think Alex Marvez is really bad on air. All of his stuff looks really bad, and this angle wasn't especially hot either.
So then the TBS title was on the line with Chris Statlander against Anna Jay with her manager, Daddy Mac of the Jericho Appreciators in the corner. And I know what you think, and I'm going to say this real briefly. Without Alpha Centauri and the Puddin' Gang and etc., Chris Statlander looks like she could walk out on SmackDown or Raw. Yeah. And that is a big compliment considering this AEW women's division.
I agree.
She's got the size. She's got the look. She's an athlete. She's straightened up. It's not comedy anymore. And to be honest, this match started, they were wrestling. And I wrote, God in heaven, they're doing it better than anybody in the Tornado Tag. Anna Jay is rotten, but they kept it simple. at the first, and it looked great. And then Anna Jay took over, but it was they went to the break, and when they came back, Statlander was making a comeback, and the fans love her. She's over with them. But they got a little too busy at the end where Daddy Mac would distract her for Anna Jay to take over a second, get a 2 count, and then Statlander would come back out, and then Daddy Mac would distract again. But finally, Statlander just said, fuck it, right out of that, just hit a tombstone, 1, 2, 3. The finish was too busy. None of us are going to live long enough to see Anna Jay learn to work in a fluid manner. So they should have just given her a little fucking offense and then Statlander a nice comeback and beat her with the tombstone. And that establishes a baseline. If we can beat Anna Jay like this, the next level up is going to be a little more difficult, etc. But if it was difficult, even with distraction and intervention, to beat Anna Jay for Statlander, she just beat Jade Cargill. So let's fucking keep that going. That was my comment. Talk to me about your girl, Chris.
I thought Statlander looked great. She's over with the fans and can't really say anything bad. I thought the match was good. I think this is the best Anna Jay match I've seen. I don't think Anna Jay's nearly as rotten as you do. I think that was the word, rotten.
Rotten?
No, I don't think she's rotten.
Rancid?
Here's the thing. She comes out of QT school. I won't go any further. I don't know. I haven't seen anyone come out of that school and I'm like, damn, they're getting good training there. Statlander comes out of Pat Buck school. You see people come out of that school, you're like, wow, something's going on. They got the basics down. But,
well, he patterned everything after Ohio Valley Wrestling from his tenure there.
That's what I've heard. But Anna Jay is athletic. She's young. What is she, like 22, 23? Really good looking. She's got it out there and it's on her shirt, so I'll say it. Great ass. And she seems into it. Like, if she didn't move, you would almost think she was like Miss Elizabeth because she's got kind of like that Southern beauty. But then she starts like moving her face nonstop and it's like, you know, not like Missy Hyatt or anything, but it's just, there's character or charisma. There's something there. And she's willing clearly to take crazy bumps when necessary or not necessary. There's something to be done with her. Really good look. Let me add again, really good looking, and she's willing to take bumps and do all this stuff. There's got to be something better to do with her. And I don't think she's that bad in the ring, but she probably, I don't know anything about her training. I don't want to say anything else.
Well, and now Statlander, I guess we're not going to have a rematch with Jane. Jane is taking time off. This long, arduous 3-year career she's had of getting put over once a week on television has led her to say, I need a break.
Is that true? I hadn't heard that.
I heard she's taking time. Where's she been now? She just lost. If she was coming back or not taking time off, shouldn't she be out there going, I want a rematch? I've lost one match in my life.
You would think, but it also could be, you know what? I got to 60 wins. I've been working the champion schedule. I don't know if I could do this anymore. I understand why Briscoe and Terry and everyone wanted out. I can't do this anymore. Could be that.
Well, I want out, but we got one more match before I can get out. The main event, Ricky Starks versus Jay White of Gin and Juice. And this is the main event, and this is a grudge match because, as you'll recall, Gin and Juice pretty much kicked the shit out of Ricky Starks last week, right? So we could actually remember this happened. And so Ricky Starks jumps Jay White in the aisleway on his entrance in the main event in a grudge match between two guys that are supposed to be pushed as commodities. Fine. Nothing the matter with that. Why did we have 2 other matches on this same program do the same thing? Is anybody paying a fucking attention, or is everybody just allowed to go out and do whatever they want?
Yeah.
So they have the fight goes to the ring and the bell rings and then they fight the other side of the ring to the floor. And they spent this entire segment almost on the floor. I wrote at one point, this whole thing's going to be on the floor. They got back in the ring. Jay White took a backdrop that got a bigger pop than the first 2 minutes of the whole match, and then they both rolled back out to the floor. And then Ricky Starks, the people like him, and he's good, and he's got fire, and he's been booked to be left laying on his face or beaten or foiled or demoralized or whatever constantly. He's got a chance here to show what he can do. And Jay White, supposedly this hotshot, great worker from New Japan, opportunity in America where nobody knows who the fuck he is, to show what he can do. And they're just having bad, sloppy fighting on the floor like every other match that we see from this company. And then, as Starks goes under the ring, he looks under the ring and can't find what he's looking for. So he looks under the next side. Nothing. He walks past his opponent who's selling there on the floor and gives him a half-hearted kick and goes around to the other side of the ring. Instead of just beating the fucking guy up while he's down, he's looking for shit under the ring that he legitimately cannot find. And then the reason I know that he couldn't find it is because he then turns the stairs over, thinking, well, I can't find what I'm looking for, so I'll turn the stairs over. But then he sees Jay White staggering up the ramp, and before he runs after Jay White, he turns the stairs back over. Did you see that? It's like, oh, I can't leave him tipped over like this. He turned him back over the right way and then runs off to catch the opponent. I wrote, what the fuck is happening? The referee has left the ring, and they're fighting in the entranceway. And the announcers are saying, well, I think it's right of the referee to let him go. This is a grudge match, because they even know that there's no way that this shouldn't have been a count out. And I'm never going to see whether Jay White is any good or not, because apparently he's never going to have a match on his program. And then they go back to ringside, and Jay White tries to get in the ring, and Ricky Starks pulls him out, and they have more fight on the floor. And then Jay White goes over and grabs the stairs and puts them back in the right place. And then comes back over and fucking takes a suplex from Ricky Starks on the floor. He had to let his opponent recover while he put the stairs back in the right place so that and I wrote, am I hallucinating? And then they went to picture in picture. And both guys were never in the ring together until 15 seconds before they came back from the break. So now we are close to 10 minutes into this thing where they have never used the ring. But when they come back from the break, they're in the ring. And White is chopping Ricky Starks, and Ricky Starks is selling, and the people are reacting more than they did to anything in the first 10 minutes of this complete fucking stinker that they've had so far. And then Starks fires back, and White stops him. And then they fought on the top turnbuckle, and White gave him a big superplex. And it looked great. And I wrote, if they'd had a match in front of this, it would be incredible. But they never even got in the ring and started a match until there was 7 minutes left on the air in total. So once they started using the ring, their shit was great. And they were taking bumps, and they can work. But by that time, I was just wanting it to be over because I was so fucking bummed out from the first 10 minutes. And then basically Starks hit a great spear and then hit his finish, what's the French name of the finish? The no can
Rochambeau.
Rochambeau. He hit his finish on White, but White's legs clipped the referee, and the referee goes down, and here come the Gun Boys. I'm not sure why, when Jay White has a tag team partner, but maybe Juice missed his flight. I don't fucking know. But they hit their finish on Starks, and then White revives the referee and picks Starks up and hits his finish on him. 1, 2, 3. And right before, on that spear, and giving Jay White his finish, the people really, really, really wanted Ricky Starks to win. And he didn't again. And I'm not saying that the heel never can get any heat or fuck the babyface, but Starks has been pummeled. And they're still with him. He's like the AEW LA Knight. And they still want to support him. And every time that the fans do want to support him, they see him get beat and left face down. But the last 4 minutes in the ring gave you the idea that a match between these two guys would have been great. But they didn't have one. And whoever thought, if there is no agents, or there are no agents, bad grammar, if there are no agents, if there is no instruction from the booker or from the office, if they're just allowed to go out and have whatever kind of match they want to have, why would either one of these guys have thought that it was a thing to do to spend the first 10 minutes on the floor on this program when that's all you'd seen to begin with? And Starks and White, in this field of the people on this television program, were in the upper echelon of quality of the workers. They could have done well. Instead, we had to sit through complete shit with Ricky Starks looking like an idiot for crawling around under the ring trying to find shit to hit the guy that was laying at his feet to begin with. Your thoughts?
Sometimes you lay out the obvious and it's still funny. They didn't pull me into this, and maybe it was because I watched live and I saw everything else on the show. But I didn't like this very much. I know everyone really likes Jay White. I'm more impressed with Juice Robinson.
Yeah.
He's got more size. He's got a cooler look. I think he's a better... I don't want to say he's a better promo because I know people have raved about Jay White's promo.
He's a more charismatic promo. He doesn't talk like another of the endless guys with an accent from the United Kingdom with a trimmed beard and a fucking serious expression.
No, you could see him like getting into a fight like at Waffle Hut. What is it? Waffle House.
Waffle Hut. What is the matter with God? You're a fucking northerner.
You can see him getting into a fight there, and whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter. He's going to be on the ground, on the pavement, like,
yeah,
doing something nuts.
He's going to be chewing on some guy's fucking elbow down on the asphalt in the parking lot at the Waffle House at 2:00 on Saturday night, Sunday morning, because that's the way Juice Robinson rolls, by God. And he's going to order them scattered, smothered, covered, and extra crispy on top of that. That's Juice. Jay White's got no fucking personality. We don't know what the fuck's going on with him.
Well, we don't do that kind of stuff at Waffle Hut, which is an offshoot of the French Toast Chateau, part of the Arcadian Vanguard Restaurant Associates program. But the other thing, I guess, with the 6-man tag announced for Collision and them doing stuff, not going, to a match yet with FTR, and it sucks that we're going to get them in a 6-man match before an actual straight-up tag match. But I guess this is their way of moving everyone away. They get away from Starks because now he's in with the Guns. I don't know who he's going to team with against them. And you got Gin and Juice set up for FTR.
What if you just told the setup to every joke you know, but never told the punchline? So nobody ever really got it. You just went from one setup to another. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Should be a booker.
So, Brian, I'm going to be a prognosticator. I'm going to turn into Nostradamus here for once because I don't know what the numbers were, but I'm betting that it was worse than last week, but better than the week before. In other words, about the same thing as they've been doing.
Well, Jim, the ratings for AEW Dynamite on TBS June 7th, a Wednesday, as always, 903,000 viewers on average.
So that was a little down from last week and a little up from the week before, about what they've been doing.
Well, the show opened Q1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Orange Cassidy versus Swerve Strickland with picture-in-picture, 962,000 viewers.
The big bangers must love old pockets by now, but now the debate here is going to be, as usual, where do they fall off the cliff? for an average of 903 to start out at 962. Looks to me like they're going to be strong for the first part of the program before they hit the fucking bottomless pit. Go ahead.
Segment 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The final 4 minutes of Cassidy versus Strickland. The post-match with the Mogul Embassy, Darby Allin and Sting.
The Mogul Embassy is what we're calling it now?
Well, that's what WrestleNomics called it. This data was pulled by WrestleNomics here.
Did Lovey do this one, or is Thurston Howell off for vacation this week, or?
There was a Jay White video, as well as a Bryan Danielson Kazuchika Okada video. 924,000 viewers.
So Pockets only drove 38,000 off this week.
Segment 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. Chaos versus Blackpool Combat Club with picture-in-picture Chaos, the best friends and their other friend.
Is that what they call them now?
Well, the Japanese faction with Rocky Romero is Chaos, so now...
Oh, I thought he became a best friend when he was with the other two. Isn't it 2 out of 3 rules? It's 2 best friends and 1 chaotic guy. So
if you're in a group called Chaos, do you feel like a moron if you're wrestling the Blackpool Combat Club? We're Chaos. Look at these fucking guys.
Well, what did Best Chaos and the other guys do here?
Well, also the Hung Bucks promo backstage, 895,000 viewers.
Okay, so that they're dueling, let's see, 24 and 520. They only drove off 29,000, so they're not as good as Pockets.
Segment 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m., the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay video, MJF and Adam Cole's live confrontation in ring, 955,000 viewers.
Wow. So
we have not seen a bump like that in a while.
Yeah, that's unusual, and that's the 8:45 to 9 p.m. So they apparently wanted to see MJF and Adam Cole talk, because that was, 12 out of this 15 minutes? That is, they're up 60,000 from the previous quarter.
Have you been watching the first...
And they overlapped into 5 at the top of the hour, so we'll see what that is. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right. And if you've been watching the first 45 to 50 minutes, MJF's a breath of fresh air at this point on this program.
Yeah. There must be some kind of concerted effort for people to text their friends or whatever. He's on!
Well,
Turn back on!
Well, segment 5, the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m., the final 2 minutes of the MJF Cole Live promo, as well as the Hardys, Isaiah Cassidy, and Ethan Page's backstage comedy promo, and La Facción Ingobernable.
The Goobers!
Versus
Let's
Jungle Hook.
Shorten it. The Goobers. What did the Goobers do?
Well, the faction of Goobers versus Jungle Hook with picture-in-picture, 929,000 viewers.
So
the Goobers.
one can assume that nobody turned off the last 3 or 4 minutes or whatever it was of Adam Cole and MJF, so we can give the other guys credit for running off 26,000 people.
You know what? Even though I wasn't crazy about the entirety of the Adam Cole MJF promo,
you at least wanted to see where it was going.
You wanted to see where it's going, and you know what? At least it didn't end with just a brawl like everything else does. Like, whatever you think of it, there's still room for more. They didn't do the whole goddamn thing. Exactly. Segment 6. 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The finish of the Goober faction versus Jungle Hook. Konosuke Takeshita versus...
Our friend Take.
Versus Damon Ace. Damon Ace. Damon Ace. The Dodd, Callis, and Takeshita Live promo. Christian Cage's backstage promo. And the beginning of Chris Statlander versus Anna Jay. 863,000 viewers.
Ouch. So there we found it, because now they've dropped another 66,000. So that they've lost almost 100,000 in the past 30 minutes.
Well, segment 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Chris Statlander versus Anna Jay continued, and the Outcast backstage promo, 847,000 viewers.
And bye-bye to 316 more thousand of you.
And finally, 9:45 to 10 p.m., segment 8, Ricky Starks versus Jay White with picture-in-picture, and the post-match with the Guns and Juice Robinson, 845,000 viewers.
Gee, Manelli, they couldn't even pick up anything. They lost 2 more thousand people for the main event. It's not a bad number to end up with, considering where they've been in the past. But they're still...
But look at
they lost 120,000 from start to finish.
You know, look at the end of the show, though. Statlander versus Anna Jay. I would have to go back and check. I'm looking at the trend line here. Didn't drop as much as most of the women's segments at the end of the show usually do. And although Ricky Starks has had a good following and people have been into him, and MJF now months ago was great on TV, it's him against Jay White. Jay White has not been established enough to pull a number from main eventing this show. So the fact that it was only 845, that it didn't drop off further, I actually think is pretty good.
It's the little things, Brian. It's the small victories. Meanwhile, and again, you know, somebody asked me on Twitter, well, why don't you go through the SmackDown ratings or the Raw ratings like this minutely? Well, number one, the Raw ratings is 12 quarters, and it's ridiculous. And you know what it's going to be. First hour is okay. Second hour is usually the biggest one. Third hour drops off because what the fuck? And with SmackDown, as we saw last week, and I think we forgot to mention it on the last program, last week's SmackDown number was enormous for modern times. And the final quarter with the Bloodline Roman Reigns 1,000-day ceremony was 2.9 million viewers. And, you know, honestly, to be quite honest, the Bloodline thing has to be what's carrying the whole deal, because there's not that much interesting going on otherwise. But good Lord, the people are liking that. And that was the end. My point to be made, the end of the 2-hour program was the highest rated segment of the program because people wanted to see that. They weren't watching a show that they were saying, okay, good God, we know what's coming up and we don't give a shit. And that's the difference. You know, they're pretty consistent. They do not lose. The WWE does not lose 20 to 25% of their audience from start to finish on a show usually, unless it's the 3-hour Raw. And then actually they don't lose that percentage. They lose more viewers because they start out with many more, but they don't lose that much. This show, you can't watch the whole goddamn thing because it's just endless, same, chaos, violence, not even violence, just wreckage. They're not really mad, you can tell that, but they're just hurting each other. But they're cooperating when they do it. Anyway.
And
those
by the way,
are the numbers there. What?
You brought up the SmackDown numbers. Last week, which was the 1,000-day celebration, for the record, the show started with 2.45 million viewers. It ended with 2.9 million viewers.
They picked up, what's 450,000 to 2.5 million? They picked up almost 20%, didn't they?
And the key demo is interesting, too. Starts at 860,000 viewers, ends at 1.13 million. So the advertisers and the network love that.
And again, that's what I'm saying is that there's not anything interesting on the WWE program except the Bloodline. So when the Bloodline does something, the people fucking love it because they're starved. And over on the other channel, you can't get fucking hungry because they won't stop feeding you. So it's complete polar opposites. But the one seems to be working, the starvation thing. Hey, you lock somebody up in the fucking closet and you only pitch them a sandwich every couple of days, they're going to love the fucking sandwich, right? That's what the experience I've usually had with people that's been in my closet. What about you, Brian?
I have not had that experience. Maybe
people don't get hungry in your closet?
I don't lock people in my closet. How many people have you locked in your closet?
I'm not allowed at liberty right now to enumerate.
Have you been locked in the closet?
No, I got the key.
Before you had a key, no one just pushed you in and locked the door and ran away?
No, I had the closet built.
There are other closets, Jim. Hotchkiss didn't invent the closet.
No, this is a good closet. You can't get out of this closet. You can get out of a lot of closets, but no, I got a brand new built-in closet, and I got the only key. All right, so before we go any further to SmackDown this week, which won't take long, what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on at the Wrestling News, the Arcadian Vanguard, and all the fine programming that you do on the side over there?
We got a brand new pair of roller skates, and you got a brand new key. No, another fine week of programming on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information.
Thank you, Melanie.
Get information about all this show. Thank you very much. To get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast. You say shit, and it makes me smile, and I can't talk. Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. Of course, if you want your wrestling news for free, every day, with no opinion, no conjecture, just the straight news, get it from the Wrestling News, directly from thewrestlingnews.com, or look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Once again, free daily wrestling newscast from the Wrestling News. Also, videos up on the official Arcadian Vanguard YouTube channel. Speaking of which, I want to mention Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, a very popular show on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Many great episodes. He just put up one with Kurt Fuller, an interview with the man who played Brell in No Holds Barred. You should check that out. But one of the things that we're going to be doing is bringing some of the episodes in the past and future episodes of Shut Up and Wrestle to the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube channel. And one of the exciting things, Jim, going on is Brian Solomon, who of course worked for WWE Magazine years and years ago, has a great collection of audio that's never been heard before of people he interviewed for the magazine. We're going to start introducing some of these segments onto the show. I have a small sample I'd like to play for you, Jim.
Well, I'd like to hear it, Brian.
Here's Brian Solomon talking to Dusty Rhodes.
Well, something else that you've been known for through your career, obviously we believe in that if we didn't talk about it, is you're definitely one of the most famous bleeders in the history of wrestling. I mean, did you just wake up one morning and decide that you were just going to be the greatest bleeder in the history of the business? How did that happen?
By getting hit in the head more than anybody else in our business. That's the only way you become a bleeder. It's like fighters, Chuck Webner and them guys. I mean, you get hit in the head. I was in many vicious battles. No, that's a ridiculous and stupid question. Say I woke up one morning and said I'm going to become one of the bleeders. I think during that era of the, from the mid '80s on back to when I started in '70, to '69.
Right.
That was an era of realness, and there was an era of old timers and different things that happened. It wasn't just. So I woke up and said, I'm going to be a bleeder.
Right.
I should have ducked. I should have ducked a lot more and dodged a lot more. Let me put it like that.
Well, that's probably
other
true.
than that, that's what happened in that case. But no, a lot of pain, blues, and agony laid on my noggin.
Well, there's a small sample of it. Brian Solomon talking to Dusty Rhodes.
After the last 15 years, Brian asks better questions now.
Again, it was for WWE Magazine. It was a long time ago. And, it is crazy to think about considering where we are today. I mean, here we are doing this show, and there are other shows, and so many things have happened. But even though there were already shoot interviews at that time, especially for a company publication, kayfabe was broken and things were talked about, but there was the old guard especially still had their guard up.
Yeah. And Dusty, good God, if he'd have been asked that question 10 years before that, he would have given the John Wayne backhand to whoever it was. And there were, some things you still, the guys didn't talk about at that, even when the horse had left the barn, as Mama Cornette used to say. You couldn't bring yourself to talk about it, especially if you're doing something official for the company. Maybe, if he was sitting down at a fan fest and, in a candid moment, as they say. But even then, it took a while before everybody got used to the fact that what the fuck is everybody? They're just talking about it. So what the fuck?
But you see, Dusty thought it was a ridiculous question. if Brian Solomon asked that same question to, say, John Moxley, it'd be like, what a brilliant question. Yes, I did. I woke up and said, I'm going to be the best bleeder ever. I woke up on a boxcar headed to Dayton. We'll hear more from Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. Like I said, Kurt Fuller on a recent episode. Get it at suawpod.com or look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership! Go through the archive today at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The 605 Superpodcast, the Mothership.